Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy History Channel. Tonight, we explore the astonishing story of early computers. This is the story of how calculation became power. It begins with human minds, careful hands, and machines built to answer questions too large for ordinary patience. Before computers sat on desks, they filled rooms. Before screens became familiar, information passed through cards, switches, cables, and memory systems that seemed almost impossible at the time. Early computers changed what people believed machines could do. They helped decode secrets. They guided spacecraft. They transformed business, science, and daily life with a speed that still feels surprising. Each breakthrough made the next one easier to imagine. The strange thing is how recent this world really is. Many of the ideas that shape modern life began with devices that had less power than a simple pocket calculator. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Allow your eyes to grow heavy. Join me as we explore the remarkable beginnings of the computer age together. Let's begin. The first computers were people before they were machines. Long before glowing screens and humming processors, a computer was a job title. It meant a person who performed calculations with discipline, speed, and almost unbelievable accuracy. These workers filled notebooks with figures that guided ships, mapped stars, built bridges, and later helped launch rockets. Many were women, because institutions could hire them for careful mathematical labor while denying them the status given to engineers. Their work was demanding. A single mistake could ruin a table used by sailors or scientists. So they checked one another's results, followed strict procedures, and turned arithmetic into a kind of human machinery. This is one of the most surprising roots of modern technology. Before electricity entered the story, computation already existed as organized thought. The first machines did not replace a vague idea. They replaced rooms of trained minds. Every modern device carries that hidden ancestry, from the patient hands that once made numbers move across paper. The first computer bugs were sometimes actual insects. The most famous early bug story comes from a moth found trapped inside a relay of the Harvard Mark II computer. Engineers taped it into a logbook and noted that the machine had been debugged. The joke worked because the word bug was already used for technical faults, but this time, the fault had wings. The incident became a perfect symbol for the early age of computing. These machines were not invisible or sealed away. They were physical creatures of metal, heat, contacts, and moving parts. Dust, warm components, loose wires, and insects could all interfere with their behavior. Debugging meant understanding the machine as a real object, not just a logical system. A programmer might need mathematical skill, but an engineer might need tweezers and patience. That tiny moth reminds us how close early computers were to the material world. Their errors were not abstract mysteries alone. Sometimes they were living things caught in the machinery. Early computers filled rooms, yet solved problems in seconds. The scale is almost hard to believe now. A machine that could fit less power than a modern phone might occupy an entire laboratory. Cabinets lined the walls. Cables crossed panels. Operators moved through the room like technicians inside a factory of thought. Yet these vast machines could perform calculations that would have taken human teams many hours or even days to complete by hand. That contrast made them feel almost miraculous. Their size came from the technology inside them. Vacuum tubes, switches, relays, cooling systems, and power supplies all needed space. Nothing was miniaturized in the way we expect today. Still, when the machine worked, it changed the rhythm of science and engineering. Weather predictions, weapon designs, census work, and mathematical tables could be attacked with new speed. The wonder was not that early computers were huge. The wonder was that something so physically awkward could make human problem-solving suddenly feel fast. Ada Lovelace imagined software before electronic computers existed. In the 1840s, Ada Lovelace studied Charles Babbage's proposed analytical engine and saw something that many others missed. Most people thought of calculation as a way to grind through arithmetic. Lovelace understood that a machine following instructions could become something more flexible. In her famous notes, she described a method for generating Bernoulli numbers, which is often treated as one of the earliest published computer programs. The machine itself had never been built. There was no keyboard, no monitor, and no electronic memory. Yet Lovelace was already thinking in terms of operations, symbols, and ordered steps. That mental leap is astonishing because software is not a physical object. It is a plan that makes a machine behave. Lovelace grasped this before the age that could prove her right. She imagined a future in which mechanical parts could carry out human instructions with tireless precision, turning abstract reasoning into action. ENIAC stands for Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, and used thousands of vacuum tubes to calculate artillery tables. During the Second World War, the United States needed faster ways to prepare firing tables for artillery. These tables helped crews aim weapons under changing conditions. Human calculators could produce them, but the work was slow and punishing. ENIAC was built to accelerate that task with electronic speed. Its vacuum tubes acted like rapid switches, allowing the machine to perform arithmetic far faster than mechanical devices. The result was enormous, power-hungry, and difficult to manage. It weighed many tons and required constant attention from engineers and operators. Programming it was not a matter of typing commands. People configured cables, switches, and panels to make the machine follow a new problem. Even so, its performance felt revolutionary. ENIAC showed that electronics could move computation into a new era. It also revealed a strange truth about progress. Sometimes the future arrives looking less like a sleek invention and more like a room full of wires. Colossus helped break secret codes during the Second World War. At Bletchley Park in Britain, codebreakers faced messages produced by the German Lorenz cipher system. These were not ordinary field communications. They carried high-level military traffic, and reading them could reveal plans, movements, and intentions. Colossus was created to help search through possible patterns at a speed no human group could match. It read punched paper tape racing through the machine, testing statistical clues in streams of encrypted text. Unlike later general-purpose computers, it was built for a particular kind of code-breaking work. That focus made it powerful in the exact place it was needed. Much of its story remained classified for decades, which meant the public did not immediately understand how important it had been. The secrecy hid one of computing's great early achievements. Colossus proved that electronic machines could transform information warfare. It was not just calculating numbers. It was helping reveal meaning inside deliberate confusion. Early programmers stored instructions on punched cards and paper tape. Before software became something saved with a click, instructions had to be carried in physical form. Punched cards and paper tape turned information into patterns of holes. A machine could sense those holes and interpret them as commands, values, or sequences. To us, it sounds slow and fragile. To early users, it was a powerful way to make instructions portable. A program could be stacked, sorted, carried, dropped, damaged, or accidentally rearranged. That made the process feel surprisingly tangible. Code had weight. It could sit in a box. It could be fed into a reader and transformed into action. Paper tape offered a different rhythm, like a narrow ribbon of decisions passing through a machine. These media shaped how people thought about programming. Every instruction had to be prepared carefully, because correction was awkward. The programmer lived close to the machine's appetite, feeding it patterns that looked simple to the eye, but meant work to the computer. A single early computer could cost more than a mansion. Early electronic computers were not consumer products. They were major national investments, often funded by governments, universities, military agencies, or large corporations. Their cost included far more than the hardware itself. A buyer needed a special room, stable power, trained staff, maintenance, cooling, and a steady supply of replacement parts. The machine might require teams of operators just to keep it useful. For most businesses, such a purchase was unimaginable. For the institutions that could afford one, it became a symbol of technical authority. A computer could promise faster research, better administration, and prestige that few rivals could match. The price reflected the state of the technology. Components were bulky, handmade, and difficult to keep reliable. Each installation was almost a project in itself. This makes the modern world feel even stranger. Devices now treated as ordinary are descended from machines so expensive that only the most powerful organizations could invite them inside. The Apollo guidance computer helped humans land on the moon. Inside the Apollo spacecraft was a computer designed under extraordinary pressure. It had to guide navigation, help control the vehicle, and support decisions where delay could be fatal. Its memory was tiny by modern standards, but it was built with remarkable discipline. Programs were woven into core rope memory, a form of read-only storage made by threading wires through magnetic cores. That made the software physically real in a way that feels almost unbelievable today. Astronauts interacted with the system through a display and keyboard called DSCI. They entered short numerical commands, and the computer returned essential information. During the lunar landing, the system famously handled alarm conditions while continuing its critical work. It prioritized tasks and kept the mission moving. This was not a computer built for convenience. It was built for trust. In a fragile spacecraft far from Earth, limited memory and careful engineering helped turn descent toward the lunar surface into history. Modern computing began with machines that barely had memory. Early computers forced programmers to think with extreme economy. Memory was scarce, expensive, and physically difficult to build. A program that seems tiny today could feel enormous then. Every instruction mattered. Every stored value had to justify its place. This shaped a style of programming that was almost architectural. People planned carefully before using the machine, because wasted space could stop a project from working. Some systems stored data on rotating drums, which meant timing could affect how quickly a program ran. Others used magnetic cores or screen-based memory that now seems strange and delicate. The limitations were not just technical inconveniences. They shaped the imagination of the people who worked with them. Engineers learned to make powerful results from almost nothing. The contrast with today is startling. We live surrounded by memory so abundant that we barely notice it. Early computing began in the opposite world, where a few available words could feel precious. The Antikythera mechanism predicted eclipses over 2,000 years ago. Recovered from an ancient shipwreck near a Greek island, this bronze device stunned researchers because it seemed too advanced for its age. Inside its corroded remains were gears arranged with astonishing sophistication. By turning a handle, A user could track cycles of the sun and moon and estimate the timing of eclipses. This was not a computer in the modern electronic sense, but it was a machine that processed astronomical knowledge through moving parts. That makes it one of the most remarkable ancestors of computation. Its builders translated the sky into gear ratios, which is a deeply impressive intellectual achievement. They took patterns observed over generations and embedded them into metal. The mechanism suggests that ancient craftsmanship and mathematics reached heights that were later forgotten. It is a reminder that the history of computing is not a straight line from simple to complex. Sometimes the past contains inventions so advanced that they feel like messages from a lost future. The abacus made complex arithmetic portable for ancient merchants. With a frame, rods, and beads, the abacus gave people a way to make numbers visible and movable. It turned calculation into touch. A merchant could add, subtract, multiply, or divide without writing every step on a surface. That mattered in markets, tax offices, workshops, and trade routes where speed and accuracy had real value. The genius of the abacus lies in its simplicity. Each bead has a position, and each position carries meaning. Move the bead, and the number changes. This physical structure helps the mind keep track of place value and procedure. Skilled users can calculate with astonishing speed, sometimes faster than someone using a basic electronic calculator. The abacus also shows that computation does not require electricity to be powerful. It requires a system that stores states and allows rules to transform them. In that sense, this ancient tool belongs in the deep family tree of computers. Blaise Pascal built a calculator to help his tax collector father. As a teenager in 17th century France, Pascal watched the burden of endless arithmetic fall on his father, who worked with tax records. The problem was not grand philosophy. It was paperwork. Columns of figures had to be added again and again, and mistakes could be costly. Pascal responded by designing a mechanical calculator now known as the Pascaline. Its wheels represented decimal places, and turning them allowed numbers to be added. When a wheel passed through a full cycle, it carried value to the next wheel, much like carrying in written arithmetic. The machine was difficult and expensive to make, but the idea was extraordinary. Pascal tried to capture a mental procedure inside a physical object. He showed that calculation could be mechanized not only in theory, but in brass and gears. The story feels human because it began with a practical need. A son saw exhausting labor, then imagined a machine that could share it. Leibniz designed a machine that could multiply by repeated addition. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz wanted mechanical calculation to go beyond simple adding. His stepped reckoner used a clever cylindrical gear called a stepped drum. This mechanism allowed the machine to handle multiplication by repeating addition in an organized way. It could also assist with division through repeated subtraction. The device was difficult to perfect, and surviving examples show the limits of 17th century manufacturing. Yet the concept was brilliant. Leibniz understood that a machine could perform complex operations by combining simpler ones. That idea sits close to the heart of computing. Modern processors still break complicated tasks into basic steps, executed with extraordinary speed. Leibniz also explored binary numbers, seeing elegance in a system built from two states. His calculator and his mathematics reveal the same deep instinct. Complexity can arise from simple rules. A turning drum on a desk may look far from a digital computer, but the family resemblance is real and fascinating. Jacquard looms used punched cards before computers borrowed the idea. In the early 19th century, Joseph-Marie Jacquard transformed weaving by controlling looms with punched cards. Each card represented part of a pattern. Holes allowed certain threads to lift, while unpunched positions kept others down. When many cards were linked together, the loom could produce intricate designs with astonishing consistency. This was not computing in the modern sense, but it showed something revolutionary. Instructions could be separated from the machine and stored outside it. Change the cards, and the machine changed its behavior. That idea later became essential to programmable devices. The jacquard system also caused social tension because skilled weavers feared the loss of work and status. Technology was already raising questions about labor, control, and automation long before electronic computers arrived. The loom's cards became a bridge between textile production and information processing. A pattern in cloth helped inspire a pattern in machinery, and eventually, a pattern in code. Charles Babbage designed a programmable machine he never finished. Babbage was frustrated by errors in mathematical tables, but his ambitions grew far beyond correcting printed numbers. His analytical engine was meant to be a general-purpose calculating machine, able to follow instructions and perform different operations depending on how it was set up. It included ideas that now sound strikingly familiar. There would be a mill for calculation, a store for memory, and punched cards to guide operations. In concept, it was closer to a computer than a mere calculator. Yet the machine was never completed in his lifetime. The engineering demands were immense, the funding was difficult, and Babbage's own temperament did not make collaboration easy. Still, the design remains one of history's great unrealized inventions. It shows that a future can be imagined long before the tools exist to build it. Babbage did not give the world a working computer, but he helped give it the architecture of a dream. The difference engine was built to eliminate human calculation errors. Mathematical tables once mattered far more than most people realize. Navigators, engineers, bankers, and scientists depended on printed columns of values. If a number was wrong, the error could travel into real decisions. Babbage believed machines could reduce this danger by producing tables automatically. His difference engine was designed to calculate polynomial functions using the method of differences. That technique allowed complex results to emerge from repeated addition, which mechanical parts could handle more reliably than human clerks. The poem was bold because it did not only aim to calculate, it also aimed to print the results, reducing mistakes introduced by typesetting. Though Babbage failed to complete the full machine, later reconstructions proved that the design could work. This makes the story more powerful. The concept was not fantasy. It was a practical answer to a real problem. At its heart was a simple desire that still drives computing today: to make knowledge more dependable. Ada Lovelace saw that machines could manipulate more than numbers. Lovelace's most remarkable insight was not only that a machine could calculate, she understood that numbers could stand for other things. If symbols could be encoded, then a machine might act on relationships between them. In her notes on Babbage's engine, she suggested that such a device might one day compose elaborate music, provided the rules of harmony could be expressed in a form the machine could follow. That was a breathtaking idea for the 19th century. It moved computation away from accounting and tables and toward creativity, logic, and representation. Today, computers handle images, voices, maps, games, films, and written language because everything can be encoded as data. Lovelace did not see modern media, but she glimpsed the principle that made it possible. She recognized that computation was not chained to arithmetic. It could become a general method for transforming symbols. That single leap makes her vision feel startlingly modern. Herman Hollerith used punched cards to count millions of census records. The United States Census had become a mountain of information. Counting the population was not enough. Officials wanted details about age, occupation, household status, birthplace, and many other categories. Processing it by hand took so long that the results risked becoming outdated before the next census arrived. Hollerith created an electromechanical tabulating system to attack this problem. Each person's information was represented by holes punched into a card. When a card passed through the machine, electrical contacts detected the holes and advanced counters. Suddenly, data about millions of people could be sorted and summarized at unprecedented speed. This was a turning point because the machine was not merely calculating. It was processing information about society itself. The census became a vast early example of data handling. Hollerith showed that machines could help governments understand populations at scale. In doing so, he brought computation out of mathematical tables and into the management of modern life. Hollerith's tabulating machines helped create the company that became IBM. The success of Hollerith's punched card system opened a business opportunity. His machines were valuable not only for census work, but for any organization drowning in records. Railroads, insurers, and large offices all needed better ways to sort information. Hollerith founded a company to sell and lease tabulating equipment. Over time, that business became part of a larger merger called the Computing Tabulating Recording Company. Later, under new leadership, it adopted the name International Business Machines. The path from census cards to IBM shows how early computing grew through administration as much as invention. Before personal computers or mainframes, there was an appetite for organized data. Companies needed to know what they owned, what they owed, and what their customers were doing. Machines that could classify and count records became essential tools of modern bureaucracy. This origin gives IBM's story a remarkable depth. A giant of the computer age began with holes in cards and the pressure to count faster. Early punched cards carried information through carefully placed rectangular holes. To a modern eye, a punched card can look almost disappointingly plain. It is only stiff paper, marked by rows and columns. Yet to early information machines, those empty spaces were meaningful. A hole could stand for a digit, a letter, a category, or an instruction. Absence mattered too, because an unpunched position told the reader something different. This made the card a physical language. Information was no longer trapped in handwriting or printed ledgers. It could be sorted, counted, duplicated, and fed into machines at scale. Workers handled boxes of cards as if they were libraries made from thin slices of paper. One misplaced card could disrupt a job. One damaged corner could cause trouble. That fragility made the process feel very human, even as it pushed society toward automation. The remarkable thing is how simple the principle was. By teaching machines to notice holes, people began turning ordinary paper into structured memory. The word computer once described skilled workers doing arithmetic by hand. For much of history, computation was not an object on a desk. It was a profession built from concentration and trust. A computer might sit at a table for hours, following formulas with pencil, paper, and reference books. The work demanded stamina because large projects could involve thousands of repeated steps. Astronomical charts, insurance tables, military ranges, and engineering plans all depended on such labor. These workers were expected to be accurate without being celebrated. Their names often disappeared behind the institutions that used their results. That old meaning changes the way we hear the word today. It reminds us that machines inherited a human role. When electronic devices arrived, people did not invent calculation from nothing. They automated a disciplined craft that already existed. The machine took over the title, but not the deeper idea. A computer is still something that follows a method, transforms information, and produces an answer from careful steps. Many early human computers were women working in observatories. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, observatories gathered more data than astronomers could easily process. Photographic plates captured stars in huge numbers. Each plate needed to be examined, measured, compared, and recorded. Women were often hired for this work because they could be paid less than men, yet many became extraordinarily skilled. They studied brightness, position, color, and spectral patterns with patient attention. Their tables and classifications shaped the foundations of modern astronomy. Some discovered variable stars. Some helped reveal the structure of the universe. Yet their work was commonly treated as clerical rather than scientific. This makes their story both inspiring and revealing. The sky was being mapped by people whose authority was often denied. They transformed faint marks on glass into knowledge about distant suns. Before electronic databases, these workers formed a living system for turning starlight into evidence. Their careful eyes helped science see farther. Harvard's women computers classified stars with extraordinary patience and precision. At the Harvard College Observatory, a remarkable group studied photographic plates taken through telescopes. Their work became known as the Harvard computers, although they were people rather than machines. Under the direction of Edward Pickering, they examined thousands upon thousands of stellar spectra. These thin bands of light carried clues about a star's nature. Annie Jump Cannon developed a classification system that organized stars into the familiar sequence still taught today. Henrietta Swan Leavitt discovered a relationship involving Cepheid variable stars that later helped astronomers measure cosmic distances. Williamina Fleming identified unusual objects and contributed to vast catalogues. The achievement was not only the quantity of work, but the quality of pattern recognition. These women saw order in tiny variations that many would have missed. They helped turn astronomy into a more systematic science. Their story belongs in computing history because they processed data at a scale that made the universe newly measurable. Katherine Johnson calculated spaceflight paths before electronic computers were trusted. At NASA and its predecessor organization, Katherine Johnson became known for mathematical judgment that engineers deeply respected. Spaceflight required more than launch power. It needed trajectories that accounted for gravity, speed, timing, and the moving positions of Earth and spacecraft. Johnson calculated paths for early crewed missions and later checked computer-generated results for orbital flight. Her work mattered because astronauts and engineers wanted confidence in the numbers. In a field where small errors could become enormous dangers, trusted calculation was a form of safety. Johnson's role also reveals a crucial transition in computing history. Electronic machines were entering the room, but human expertise still stood beside them. The question was not simply whether a computer could produce an answer. It was whether people understood that answer well enough to bet a life on it. Johnson's precision helped connect human mathematical skill with the new age of automated space navigation. Mechanical calculators clicked and clattered through offices for decades. Before electronic machines became common, office calculation had its own sound. Desks held sturdy devices with cranks, levers, keys, and moving registers. Accountants, clerks, engineers, and shop workers used them for payroll, invoices, inventories, and design work. The machine did not think, but it could relieve the hand and mind from endless arithmetic. Each operation produced motion you could hear. Wheels advanced. Carries snapped into place. Keys returned with a mechanical rhythm. In large offices, many of these devices working together created a busy music of administration. They were built to survive heavy use, and some remained in service for decades. Their importance is easy to overlook because they sit between eras. They were not ancient counting tools, and they were not electronic computers. They were practical bridges. They made calculation faster before software existed. They also trained workplaces to expect machines to handle numerical labor, which prepared the way for bigger transformations. Some early calculators used wheels, gears, and tiny metal teeth. Open the casing of an old calculating machine, and the hidden world inside feels almost alive. Numbers were represented by positions of wheels. A turn of a crank could rotate gears through precise amounts. Small teeth engaged, slipped, carried, and reset. The elegance came from making arithmetic physical. Addition became motion. Carrying a digit became a mechanical event. Subtraction could be handled by reversal or clever complement methods. Some machines used stepped drums. Others used pinwheels that changed how many teeth engaged during a turn. These details may sound small, but they allowed a desk-sized device to follow rules that humans normally kept in their heads. The operator set the values, and the machine performed the repetitive movement. There is something fascinating about that translation. A thought such as 7 plus 5 becomes pressure, rotation, and alignment. Early calculators remind us that computation began not as invisible electricity, but as metal-obeying mathematics. Vannevar Bush's differential analyzer solved equations with shafts and rotating disks. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Vannevar Bush helped create a machine that made advanced mathematics visibly mechanical. Differential equations describe changing systems, and they are essential in physics and engineering. Solving them by hand could be painfully slow. Bush's machine used rotating shafts, gears, and disk integrators to model relationships between changing quantities. Instead of reducing every problem to written arithmetic, it let motion stand for mathematics. As wheels turned, the system traced solutions that could be plotted and studied. This belonged to the world of analog computing, where continuous physical processes represented continuous numerical values. The machine was large, complicated, and deeply impressive to those who saw it work. It gave researchers a new way to handle problems involving motion, electricity, and control. Its importance lies in a different vision of computation. Not all early computers were about digits. Some made mathematics flow through machinery like a controlled physical experiment. The differential analyzer was one of history's largest mechanical computers. This was not a small desk instrument. It was a sprawling assembly of interconnected parts that occupied a dedicated space and required careful setup. Operators configured its mechanisms to match the equations being studied. Rods and shafts carried motion across the machine. Disk integrators produced relationships that were difficult to calculate by ordinary methods. Watching it operate must have felt like seeing an equation become a moving landscape of metal. Its size reflected the ambition of the work. It was built to help solve problems that mattered in science, engineering, and war planning. Yet it also belonged to a fading path in computing history. Analog machines could be powerful, but digital electronic computers later became more flexible and easier to reprogram. That makes the differential analyzer especially compelling. It was both a peak and a turning point. It showed how far mechanical ingenuity could go just before electronics began changing the whole direction of computation. Alan Turing described a universal machine before one was built. In the 1930s, Turing approached computation as a question of logic. He imagined a simple device that could read symbols on an endless tape, change them, and move according to rules. The design was theoretical, yet it captured something profound. A machine did not need to be built for only one task. If given the right instructions, one universal machine could imitate many others. This idea sits at the heart of modern computing. Your laptop, phone, or server can become a word processor, a game system, a music studio, or a scientific tool because it is general purpose. Turing reached this insight before practical electronic machines existed. He was not describing a product. he was defining what calculation itself could mean. The power of the concept is almost quiet at first, then enormous. It turns a machine from a specialized tool into a vessel for any procedure that can be clearly described. Turing proved that computation could be understood as simple symbolic steps. The brilliance of Turing's work was its reduction of a deep mystery to an austere model. Instead of asking what a human mind might do in all its richness, he asked what a person following a definite method could do with symbols. Read a mark. Write a mark. Move to another position. Follow the rule. Repeat. From those simple actions, he built a framework for understanding algorithms. This did not make intelligence simple, but it made computation precise enough to study mathematically. It also revealed limits. Some problems cannot be solved by any mechanical procedure, no matter how much time is allowed. That is one of the most astonishing results in the history of ideas. Computing was not only about building faster machines, it was also about discovering boundaries around what machines could ever accomplish. Turing gave the field both its dream of universality and its warning that not every question can be mechanically answered. The bomb searched through Enigma settings faster than human codebreakers could. The German Enigma machine created a staggering number of possible cipher settings. To read a message, codebreakers had to find the correct daily arrangement before the information lost its value. The bomb was designed to speed that search. Inspired by earlier Polish work, British versions tested logical possibilities derived from suspected fragments of plaintext. Rotors turned, electrical paths were checked, and impossible settings were discarded. It was not a magic decoding box. It needed human insight, good guesses, captured procedures, and disciplined analysis. But it could perform a repetitive search at a pace beyond manual effort. That made it a crucial partner in the code-breaking process. The drama lies in the combination of brain and machine. People supplied strategy. The bomb supplied relentless elimination. Together, they turned secrecy into a contest of logic, timing, and engineering. It showed that early computation could matter not only in laboratories, but in the urgent pressure of world events. Bletchley Park turned secret wartime mathematics into practical computing power. Behind the gates of a country estate, thousands of people worked on one of the most intense information problems of the 20th century. Linguists, mathematicians, engineers, clerks, wireless operators, and intelligence staff formed a vast operation around intercepted messages. The challenge was not only to break ciphers, it was to make the results useful quickly enough to affect decisions. That required organization as much as brilliance. Messages had to be captured, sorted, tested, translated, interpreted, and distributed under strict secrecy. Machines became part of this system because the volume was too great for human effort alone. The result was a new kind of industrial information work. Mathematics was no longer confined to chalkboards or academic papers. It became a practical weapon shaped by urgency. Bletchley Park's achievement also foreshadowed the modern world, where data, machines, and human analysis are tightly bound together. It was a hidden workshop for the information age. Colossus read paper tape at astonishing speed for its time. Streams of punched tape moved through Colossus so quickly that the machine seemed to be drinking information. The tape carried encrypted characters, and its motion had to remain steady because timing was central to the process. Photoelectric readers detected patterns of holes without the slower physical contact used in some older devices. This allowed the machine to examine data at remarkable speed for the period. Its task was not to understand language as a person would. It searched for statistical signs that could help reveal how a cipher machine had been set. That distinction matters because it shows a key early computing strength. Machines could scan large streams of symbols and test patterns tirelessly. The drama was not visible in a dramatic way. It was hidden in rapid reading, pulsing electronics, and carefully prepared tape loops. Yet within those passing holes was information that could change military understanding. Speed itself became a kind of intelligence. Tommy Flowers trusted vacuum tubes when many engineers doubted them. Vacuum tubes had a reputation for failure, especially when used in large numbers. Many engineers believed a machine built with thousands of them would break too often to be practical. Tommy Flowers saw the issue differently. He understood from telephone exchange work that tubes could be reliable if kept running under stable conditions. Instead of constantly switching power on and off, he argued that continuous operation reduced stress. That confidence helped make Colossus possible. His judgment was not only technical, it required courage, because wartime needs left little room for elegant failures. Flowers pushed forward with an approach others considered risky and helped prove that large-scale electronic switching could work. This mattered far beyond one machine. It strengthened the case for electronic computing at a moment when relay-based approaches still felt safer to many. Flowers saw reliability where others saw fragility. In doing so, he helped move computation from clicking mechanics toward electronic speed. Zeus's Z3 was a working, programmable electromechanical computer. Built in Germany and completed in the early 1940s, the Z3 used relays to perform calculations under program control. It worked with binary arithmetic and floating point numbers, which made it unusually advanced for its time. Instructions were supplied through punched film, giving the machine a sequence to follow. Although it was not electronic in the later sense, it was programmable and automatic. That combination gives it an important place in computing history. Konrad Zuse developed it while working with limited resources and far less institutional support than later computer projects received. The machine was destroyed during wartime bombing, which long obscured its importance. Yet reconstructions and historical study have shown how remarkable it was. The Z3 reminds us that early computing did not emerge from one country, one laboratory, or one sudden invention. It appeared through scattered efforts by people who saw that calculation could be controlled by instructions. Comrade Zuse built early computers in his parents' apartment. There is something almost cinematic about this beginning. Instead of a grand laboratory, Zeus's early work took shape in a domestic space, surrounded by the practical limits of an ordinary home. He was an engineer frustrated by repetitive calculations in aircraft design. That frustration led him toward automation. His first machine, the Z1, was mechanical and ambitious. It used a binary approach and attempted to separate memory from calculation. It did not work reliably, but the attempt itself was astonishing. Zeus was not simply tinkering with a better calculator. He was trying to build a programmable computing system from the ground up. The apartment setting makes the achievement feel even more impressive. Large inventions are often imagined as products of vast institutions. Here, a major thread in computing history began with a determined individual trying to solve a practical problem in cramped conditions. It is a reminder that the future sometimes starts in unlikely rooms. Some early computers used telephone relays instead of electronic tubes. Relays were familiar technology before electronic computers took over. They had been used in telephone exchanges to open and close electrical circuits. A relay is basically an electrically controlled switch. Send current through a coil, and it moves a contact. Remove the current, and the contact changes back. For early computer builders, this made relays attractive. They were understandable, available, and relatively robust. Machines could represent numbers through patterns of open and closed circuits, then manipulate those patterns according to designed logic. The drawback was speed. Relays had moving parts, which meant they could not switch nearly as fast as pure electronics. Still, they played an essential role in the transition from mechanical calculation to automatic computing. They let engineers build systems that followed sequences without requiring every step to be manually performed. Relay computers sit in a fascinating middle stage. They were electrical in control, mechanical in motion, and digital in spirit. Relay computers sounded like rooms full of frantic typewriters. Imagine standing beside one of these machines while a calculation was underway. Instead of silent processing, you would hear a storm of clicks. Each relay opened or closed as part of the machine's logic. A large system could contain thousands of them, so computation became audible. The sound carried information in its own strange way. Experienced operators could sometimes notice when a machine behaved unusually because the rhythm changed. To us, computing is often hidden behind smooth glass and quiet chips. In the relay era, thinking machines announced themselves through movement. Every decision had a tiny mechanical voice. The noise also made the process feel less abstract. You could hear a number being transformed, not as spoken language, but as a pattern of switching. This makes relay computers unforgettable in the imagination. They were not yet the silent brains of later offices. They were energetic contraptions, turning logic into a clattering performance. The Harvard Mark I was over 50 feet long. The machine stretched across a room like a wall of calculation. Built through a collaboration between Harvard and IBM, it used electromechanical components to perform long sequences of arithmetic automatically. Its physical presence was part of its power. People could walk along its length and see sections devoted to different operations. Numbers moved through counters, switches, and rotating shafts. Unlike later machines that hid their workings inside tiny chips, this one made computation architectural. It looked like something that belonged to the age of industry, where power was expressed through visible scale. The Mark I could handle complex mathematical work for scientific and military projects, and it operated with a patience no human team could match. Its size also reminds us how far miniaturization has carried us. Today, more computing power can disappear into a pocket. But in the 1940s, automated calculation could be a monument built from metal, motion, and ambition. Grace Hopper helped program the massive Harvard Mark I. Grace Hopper entered computing through one of the great machines of the electromechanical age. At Harvard, she worked with the Mark I and became deeply involved in making it perform useful tasks. Programming then was not a familiar profession with established tools. It required understanding the machine's structure, preparing instructions, checking results, and documenting procedures with exceptional care. Hopper brought mathematical training and a gift for explanation. She helped produce detailed manuals, which mattered because early computers were difficult to approach without guidance. Her later career would carry her far beyond this machine, but the Mark I gave her a foundation in the practical realities of computation. She saw that computers needed not only hardware, but methods that humans could use. That insight shaped her lifelong push to make programming more accessible. Hopper's story is compelling because she stood at the edge of a new profession while it was still being invented, then helped give it language. Hopper popularized the idea of making programming languages closer to English. Early programming could be painfully remote from ordinary speech. Instructions often had to be written in numerical codes or machine-specific forms. Hopper believed that computers would become more useful if people could express operations in words that resembled business language. This was a radical, practical instinct. Many experts doubted that machines should be controlled through anything so readable. Hopper argued that human time mattered and that programming should not remain a priesthood of specialists. Her work influenced the development of languages that made commands easier to understand and maintain. This helped open computing to wider commercial use. The deeper importance is cultural as much as technical. A programming language is a bridge between human intention and machine action. Hopper wanted that bridge to be easier to cross. By pushing computers toward human language, she helped shift them from rare scientific instruments toward tools that offices, companies, and eventually ordinary people could command. The first compiler helped computers understand human-written instructions more easily. A compiler is one of the most transformative ideas in software. Instead of forcing programmers to write every step in the machine's native language, it translates a higher-level set of instructions into code the computer can execute. Early compilers were controversial because some programmers believed handwritten machine code would always be better. They worried that translation would waste precious memory or produce inefficient results. Yet the advantage was enormous. Programs could be written faster, read more clearly, and adapted more easily. Hopper's zero system and later compiler work helped prove that translation could become a practical tool. This changed the relationship between people and machines. The programmer no longer needed to think only in the computer's smallest operations. They could begin to think in larger intentions. That is one reason software could grow so complex. Compilers let human ideas stand a little higher above the hardware, while still reaching down to make it act. ENIAC had to be rewired by hand for new problems. Changing the task of this famous machine could feel more like rebuilding a circuit than loading a program. Operators studied the problem, designed a setup, moved cables, adjusted switches, and configured function tables. The process could take days, even when the actual calculation might run quickly afterward. This reveals a strange contrast in early computing. Electronic speed was available during execution, but preparation remained deeply physical. Programs were not yet mainly invisible sequences stored in memory. They were arrangements across panels, embodied in wire paths and switch positions. The people doing this work needed to understand both mathematics and hardware. A wrong connection could lead the machine away from the intended result. This kind of programming gives the word a different feeling. It was closer to choreography inside an electrical landscape. The machine could be astonishingly fast once ready, but it depended on human hands to reshape its purpose before each new intellectual performance. ENIAC programmers learned its logic by tracing thousands of cables. The women who programmed ENIAC did not begin with a convenient programming manual. They learned by studying diagrams, understanding units, and following how signals moved through the machine. To make it solve a problem, they had to break the mathematics into operations the hardware could perform. Then they mapped those operations through plugboards and switches. This demanded a rare combination of abstract reasoning and practical spatial understanding. They had to imagine the calculation as a living path through equipment. The work was difficult to explain to outsiders because programming itself had not yet gained a clear identity. It was sometimes treated as setup work, even though it required deep intelligence. Their achievement becomes more impressive the closer you look. They were not merely operating a finished device. They were discovering how to control a new kind of machine. By tracing cables, they traced the early shape of software itself, before software had fully separated from hardware. 6 women programmed ENIAC before programming was widely respected. Kay McNulty, Betty Jennings, Betty Snyder, Marlin Weskoff, Fran Belis, and Ruth Lichterman were chosen to program one of the most important machines ever built. Their task was intellectually demanding, yet their public recognition lagged far behind the hardware they helped bring to life. Photographs often showed women standing beside the machine without explaining that they had made it work. This tells us something important about the early culture of computing. Programming was initially seen by some as secondary to engineering, partly because it was associated with women's labor. History later proved how mistaken that view was. The machine itself was only potential. The program gave it purpose. These programmers developed methods, tested procedures, diagnosed mistakes, and turned mathematical goals into executable configurations. Their story reshapes the glamour of early computing. It was not only built by inventors with soldering irons. It was also animated by women whose reasoning made electronic speed useful. Vacuum tubes glowed warmly while early machines performed cold arithmetic. A vacuum tube could act as a switch or amplifier by controlling the flow of electrons through an evacuated glass envelope. In early computers, thousands of these devices made electronic calculation possible. Their glow came from heated filaments, which allowed electrons to be emitted and guided. This gave electronic machines a strange visual character. They looked warm, fragile, and almost theatrical, even while carrying out exact logical operations. Tubes replaced slower moving parts, so they helped computation leap forward in speed. Yet they brought serious demands. They consumed power, produced heat, and needed careful maintenance. Engineers had to think about airflow, stability, and replacement. The tube era therefore feels like a dramatic moment in technological history. Computation had become electronic, but not yet compact or cool. It lived in glass, metal, and heat. Inside those glowing components, arithmetic stopped depending on motion and began moving at the pace of electrons. Early computers often failed when a single tube burned out. Reliability was one of the great battles of early electronic computing. When a machine contained thousands of active components, even a small chance of individual failure could become a constant operational problem. A burned-out tube might interrupt a calculation, produce faulty results, or stop a system entirely. Engineers responded with testing routines, maintenance schedules, and designs that made replacement faster. Some teams learned that leaving equipment running could be better than repeated heating and cooling. Still, the fear of failure shaped how people used the machines. Results had to be checked. Runs might be repeated. Operators needed to know whether a strange output came from the problem, the program, or the hardware. This made early computing a partnership with uncertainty. The machines were powerful, but they were not yet the dependable background presence we expect today. Their fragility reminds us that electronic speed did not arrive fully tamed. It had to be earned through engineering discipline. UNIVAC became famous by predicting a presidential election on television. In the 1952 United States election, television viewers saw a computer step into public life. UNIVAC analyzed early returns and predicted a landslide victory for Dwight Eisenhower. The results seemed so surprising that the prediction was not fully trusted at first. When the outcome proved the machine had been right, the moment became a landmark in public awareness. Many people had never seen a computer presented as an authority on a national event. It was not simply doing arithmetic in a laboratory. It was interpreting data in front of a mass audience. That changed the computer's image. It could appear mysterious, impressive, and slightly unsettling. The machine seemed to know something before commentators were ready to admit it. This television episode helped introduce the idea that computers could detect patterns in large bodies of information. It made computation feel relevant to ordinary citizens, not just scientists, soldiers, or administrators. UNIVAC showed the public that computers could analyze real events. After its televised election success, the machine became a symbol of a new relationship between data and prediction. People began to understand that computers were not limited to bookkeeping or scientific formulas. They could process incoming information about the world as it changed. That idea would grow into weather forecasting, market analysis, logistics, public planning, and countless other fields. UNIVAC public image mattered because technology needs imagination as well as engineering. Once people saw a computer handle a living event, they could picture broader uses. Businesses wondered what machine analysis might do for inventory, payroll, and customers. Governments considered large record systems. Journalists and viewers began treating computers as strange new voices in public decision-making. The machine did not think like a person, but it could calculate relationships too large for casual judgment. That was the revelation. A computer could enter the flow of history and help people interpret what was happening. The Manchester Baby ran the first stored program in memory. In 1948, a small experimental machine at the University of Manchester performed a quiet act that changed computing forever. It was not built to be impressive to look at. Its purpose was to test a new kind of memory based on a cathode ray tube. Yet during that test, it ran a program held inside its own electronic storage. That sounds ordinary now, but it was a radical step. Earlier machines often needed physical rewiring, external tape, or special setup for each new task. This machine could keep instructions in the same kind of memory that held data. That meant a program could be changed without rebuilding the hardware around it. The first task was mathematically modest, but its meaning was enormous. It proved that a computer could store its own directions and act on them internally. From that moment, computing began to look less like machinery being rearranged and more like a machine reading its own thoughts. Stored programs changed computers from calculators into flexible thinking machines. Before instructions could live inside memory, many machines were powerful but awkward. They could solve impressive problems, yet changing their purpose might require cables, switches, or new physical media. The stored program concept altered that relationship completely. Instructions became information. A machine could treat a command as something held, moved, edited, and retrieved. This made computers far more adaptable. A laboratory could run one calculation, then load a different set of instructions, and transform the same machine into another tool. The hardware did not need to be rebuilt for each purpose. The program became the key. This is one of the deep reasons modern computers feel so magical. The same device can become a typewriter, a calculator, a map, or a studio, because its behavior is guided by stored instructions. Early engineers were not simply making faster arithmetic machines. They were creating a new kind of universal instrument, one whose identity could change whenever new instructions entered memory. The von Neumann architecture still shapes most computers today. In the mid-20th century, a powerful design pattern emerged for general-purpose computers. It described a machine with memory holding both data and instructions, a processing unit carrying out operations, and a control unit directing the sequence of work. This structure became associated with John von Neumann because of a famous report connected to the EDVAC project. The influence was immense. Later, machines adopted similar principles because they made computers flexible and easier to design as general tools. The idea sounds simple, but it created a lasting foundation. A processor fetches an instruction, decodes it, executes it, then moves to the next step. That cycle repeats at breathtaking speed in modern systems. Of course, today's chips use many refinements. They cache, pipeline, predict, and run operations in parallel. Yet the basic pattern remains recognizable. It is astonishing that machines in pockets and data centers still carry the imprint of an architecture described when electronic computing was young. Early memory could be stored as sound waves in mercury. One of the strangest forms of computer memory involved tanks of liquid mercury. Engineers sent electrical pulses into the metal, where they became ultrasonic waves traveling through the liquid. When a pulse reached the far end, it was detected, amplified, and sent back again. In this way, information circulated as timed waves. The method was called delay line memory because data was stored by keeping it in motion. It seems almost dreamlike now, but it was practical for a time. The computer did not hold a value in a neat little chip. It listened for its return. Accessing data required timing and patience because a bit could only be read when its wave arrived at the right point. Mercury was chosen because it transmitted sound predictably, although it brought obvious hazards and inconvenience. This technology shows how inventive early engineers had to be. Before compact memory existed, they taught machines to remember by echoing information through liquid metal. Williams' tubes stored data as glowing dots on screens. Imagine a memory system that looked a little like a scientific instrument from another world. A cathode ray tube fired electrons at a screen, leaving tiny charged spots. Those spots represented bits of information. The machine could read the charge pattern and refresh it before it faded. This method became one of the earliest practical forms of random access electronic memory. It mattered because data could be reached more directly than in delay line systems. Yet it was delicate. Electrical noise, drifting charges, and imperfect tubes could cause trouble. Engineers had to coax reliability from a display technology never originally meant to become memory. The visual nature is fascinating. Information lived as little patterns on glass, hidden behind the ordinary idea of a screen. Today, screens show us the results of computing. In this earlier role, a screen could actually hold the computer's working memory. It was not merely a window into the machine. It was part of the machine's mind. Magnetic drums spun constantly while holding early computer memory. A magnetic drum was a rotating cylinder coated with material that could store patterns of magnetism. Data sat around its surface in tracks, while read and write heads waited nearby. As the drum turned, the desired information eventually passed under the correct head. That meant speed depended partly on timing. A clever programmer could arrange instructions so the next needed item arrived just as the machine was ready for it. This made programming feel almost musical. You were not only deciding what the computer should do, you were thinking about when the memory would rotate into reach. Drums were larger and slower than later memory, but they were sturdy and useful in many early systems. They also gave computers a physical rhythm. Hidden inside the cabinet, storage was constantly moving. The machine remembered by spinning. Every calculation depended on magnetized traces passing again and again through the right place at the right moment. Core memory used tiny magnetic rings threaded by hand. For decades, one of the most important forms of memory was built from small donut-shaped ferrite cores. Each core could be magnetized in one direction or the other, representing a bit. Wires passed through the cores in carefully arranged grids. By sending currents through selected wires, the computer could set or read the magnetic state of a chosen core. The work required extraordinary precision. The rings were tiny, and the wires had to be threaded in exact patterns. Once built, core memory had valuable qualities. It was relatively reliable, and it could retain information even when power was removed. This was a major advantage in an era when machines were expensive and failures mattered. Core memory also made the word memory feel wonderfully literal. Data lived in a woven field of magnetic states. The computer's thoughts were held in thousands of little rings, each one quietly choosing between two possible directions. Skilled workers wove computer memory with wires and ferrite beads. In some factories, memory was made by hand, with a level of care that feels closer to fine craft than mass electronics. Workers guided thin wires through tiny magnetic cores, building grids that would become a computer's storage. The task demanded steady eyes, patient fingers, and exact attention. A single missed path could create a fault that later engineers would have to find. This labor gave early memory a human texture. Every bit depended on someone's physical precision. The phrase software would later describe instructions, but in core rope memory, instructions could be woven into hardware by passing wires through or around magnetic cores. This technique became famous in spacecraft systems where reliability mattered more than easy modification. The result was almost impossible to casually change, yet extremely dependable once completed. It is remarkable to think that a program could be embodied as a pattern of threading. In that age, code was not only written. Sometimes it was sewn. Whirlwind became one of the first computers to work in real time. Most early computers worked in batches. You prepared a problem, submitted it, and waited. Whirlwind was different because it was designed to respond quickly to changing input. Developed at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, it began as part of the Flight Simulator project and grew into a landmark machine. Real-time operation meant the computer had to keep pace with events rather than finish calculations whenever it could. This demanded speed, reliability, and new thinking about interaction. Whirlwind used magnetic core memory in later versions, which helped make rapid response possible. Its importance stretched beyond one machine. It influenced air defense systems and interactive computing. It helped people imagine computers not just as calculators behind closed doors, but as active partners monitoring the world. That shift is enormous. A machine that can respond as events unfold becomes more than an office tool. It becomes part of a control system, a simulator, or a living decision process. SAGE connected computers to radar during the Cold War. The semi-automatic ground environment was one of the largest computing systems ever attempted in its era. It linked radar stations, communication lines, and massive computers into an air defense network. Operators watched screens for signs of incoming aircraft and used light guns to interact with displayed information. This was a dramatic change in how computers were used. They were no longer only number crunchers producing printed results. They were part of the national command system, interpreting signals and helping people respond quickly. The computers involved were enormous, and the infrastructure required was staggering. Buildings, phone lines, radar sites, and trained crews all had to work together. SAGE also pushed forward technologies that later mattered in civilian computing, including interactive displays and networking ideas. Its original purpose belonged to Cold War fear, but its technical influence reached far beyond defense. It showed that computers could connect to sensors, people, and decisions across vast distances. Early computer rooms needed powerful cooling to survive their own heat. Electronic components generate heat, and early machines produced it in remarkable amounts. Vacuum tubes, power supplies, and supporting equipment could turn a computer room into a difficult environment without careful control. Heat was not merely uncomfortable. It threatened reliability. Components could drift out of specification, fail sooner, or behave unpredictably. So computing required air conditioning, ventilation, and room design as much as logic circuits. This is one reason early computers belonged to institutions with serious resources. Installing a machine meant preparing a habitat for it. The room had to protect the computer from dust, unstable temperature, and electrical problems. Operators often worked around cabinets that were both impressive and demanding. The machine did not disappear into the background the way modern devices do. It shaped the building around itself. In this sense, early computers were almost architectural inventions. To compute at scale, people first had to build spaces where the machines could breathe. Mainframes became the hidden engines of banks, airlines, and governments. As computing matured, large central machines took on the record-keeping tasks of modern society. Mainframes processed payrolls, reservations, accounts, taxes, insurance claims, and inventories. Most people never saw them, but they felt their influence whenever a ticket was booked or a statement arrived. These systems were built for reliability and large workloads rather than personal use. A mainframe could serve many terminals, run critical jobs, and manage vast collections of structured data. This made it ideal for institutions that depended on accuracy at scale. The hidden nature of mainframes is part of their fascination. They did not enter popular imagination like home computers later did, yet they helped make modern administration possible. Behind office counters and official forms, data was moving through machines built to keep society organized. Mainframes turned computation into infrastructure. They made the computer less of a scientific marvel and more of a dependable engine beneath everyday life. IBM mainframes helped turn computing into a global industry. IBM understood that customers needed more than machines. They needed support, software, training, maintenance, and confidence that their investment would endure. Its mainframe systems became central to corporate and government computing because they offered a complete ecosystem. The System 360 family, introduced in the 1960s, was especially important because it promised compatibility across a range of models. A customer could start with one system and grow without abandoning all their programs. That sounds normal today, but it was a powerful business idea. It helped computing move from custom installations towards standardized platforms. IBM's reach also made computers visible as strategic tools for large organizations around the world. Buying a mainframe was not just acquiring equipment. It was joining a technological system that could shape how an institution worked. The company's influence helped define the profession of data processing. In many places, the computer age arrived through an IBM machine in a controlled room. Fortran made scientific programming faster, clearer, and more practical. Scientists and engineers needed a way to express formulas without wrestling constantly with machine code. Fortran, short for Formula Translation, offered a solution. Developed at IBM in the 1950s, it allowed programmers to write statements that looked closer to mathematical notation. The compiler then translated those statements into instructions the computer could run. This was not just a convenience. It changed who could use computers effectively. Researchers could focus more on the problem and less on the machine's smallest details. Early skepticism was strong because experts worried that compiled code would be inefficient. Fortran succeeded because it produced useful performance while saving enormous human effort. It became especially important in fields such as physics, engineering, meteorology, and numerical modeling. Its legacy is remarkable. Versions of it are still used for demanding scientific computation. A language created for early mainframes helped teach generations that software could carry mathematical thought clearly into machine execution. COBOL was designed so businesses could read programs more easily. Business computing had different needs from scientific computing. Companies cared about records, reports, payrolls, invoices, and transactions. COBOL was created to make such work easier to express in a language that resembled structured English. Grace Hopper's ideas influenced this direction, and the language became one of the great tools of administrative computing. Its statements could look verbose compared with later languages, but that was part of the intention. A manager or analyst might be able to follow the purpose of a program more easily than if it were written in cryptic codes. COBOL helped bring computers deeper into banks, insurance companies, governments, and large corporations. Its staying power is astonishing. Many critical systems continued running COBOL programs for decades, partly because they worked and partly because replacing them was risky. The language shows how practical computing really became. It was not only about clever algorithms. It was about making daily institutional life machine readable. Early programmers debugged machines with patience, logic, and handwritten notes. Finding a fault in an early computer job could be a slow investigation. The problem might sit in the program, the input, the wiring, the memory, or a failing component. Programmers used printouts, logs, diagrams, and careful reasoning to narrow the possibilities. They might insert test instructions, compare intermediate results, or run a smaller version of the problem. Much of the work happened before the machine was even available because computer time was precious, and the stake could waste an entire run. Handwritten notes became maps through complicated processes. The discipline required was immense. Unlike modern development environments, there were no friendly screens highlighting errors instantly. The programmer had to imagine the machine's inner sequence and catch where reality departed from intention. This made debugging a craft of patience. It also shaped the culture of programming. Precision mattered. Documentation mattered. Calm thinking mattered. To debug was to hold a machine in the mind until its hidden mistake became visible. Paper tape could store programs as long ribbons of punched holes. A strip of paper tape might look fragile, but it could carry a complete sequence of instructions or data. Holes were punched across its width in coded patterns, while a feed mechanism pulled the strip through a reader. The tape could be stored in coils, edited by spicing, and physically labeled for later use. It gave early computing a sense of movement. A program entered the machine as a ribbon passing from one reel to another. Operators learned to handle tape carefully because tears, bad punches, or misfeeds could ruin a run. Compared with cards, tape was compact and continuous, which made it useful for certain kinds of input and control. It also connected computing to older communication technologies, since similar punched tape had been used with telegraph systems. The method feels charmingly mechanical now, but it served a crucial purpose. It allowed instructions to travel from human preparation into machine action as a readable physical pattern. Magnetic tape let computers store oceans of data for offices. As organizations collected more information, they needed storage that could handle large volumes without filling rooms with paper cards. Magnetic tape provided a powerful answer. It stored data as magnetized patterns along long strips wound on reels. A computer could write records onto the tape, then read them back later. The reels became icons of the mainframe age, spinning behind glass in data centers and film scenes. Tape was especially useful for sequential processing, where records were handled one after another. Payroll files, customer records, inventory lists, and backups could be kept in a form that was dense and reusable. The drawback was access time. To reach a particular record, the machine might have to wind through much of the reel. Still, the capacity was transformative. Magnetic tape turned data storage from a pile of physical documents into a managed machine resource. It helped offices imagine information as something that could be archived, copied, and processed on a new scale. Early computer operators loaded programs like careful stage managers. In large computing centers, users often did not touch the computer directly. They submitted jobs, and operators prepared the machine. This required a disciplined routine. The right cards, tapes, forms, and instructions had to be gathered in the proper order. Output had to be collected and returned. If something jammed, failed, or was mounted incorrectly, the job could be delayed or ruined. Operators became guardians of expensive machine time. Their work combined technical knowledge with timing, organization, and calm under pressure. The stage manager comparison fits because much of the performance happened out of sight. The programmer's work arrived as a package. The operator made sure it entered the system correctly. Then the machine performed its part. This role is easy to overlook because history often focuses on inventors and programmers. Yet computing at scale depended on reliable operations. Without people managing the flow, even the most powerful mainframe could become a very costly source of confusion. Batch processing made users wait for results from shared machines. For many early users, computing was not interactive. He prepared a job on cards or tape, handed it in, and waited for the system to run it. The computer processed work in batches, often grouping many users' jobs together. This made sense because machines were expensive and had to be kept busy. It also created suspense. A programmer might wait hours, or longer, only to receive a printout showing that a small error had stopped everything. Then the correction process began again. This shaped how people wrote programs. They planned carefully, checked syntax by eye, and tried to anticipate mistakes before submission. Batch processing seems slow compared with modern immediacy, but it allowed institutions to share computing power efficiently. It also created a distinctive emotional rhythm. Instead of typing and seeing instant feedback, users lived with delay. The computer was powerful, but distant. You sent work into it, then waited for judgment to return on paper. Time sharing let several people use one computer at once. The breakthrough of time sharing changed the feeling of computing. Instead of one job occupying the machine while everyone else waited, the system rapidly switched attention among many users. Each person at a terminal could feel as if they had direct access. In reality, the computer was dividing its time into tiny slices. This made computing more conversational. A user could type a command, receive a response, correct a mistake, and continue. That shift encouraged experimentation and learning. It also changed the economics of access. A large machine could support many people at once, which made computing more useful in universities, laboratories, and companies. Time sharing helped create the culture of interactive computing. People began to expect a back-and-forth relationship with the machine, rather than a formal submission process. Many ideas associated with later personal computing grew from this environment. The computer became less like a remote authority and more like a responsive partner. The transistor made computers smaller, cooler, and far more reliable. When transistors began replacing vacuum tubes, computing took a major step toward the modern age. A transistor could switch or amplify electrical signals without a hot filament inside a glass tube. It was smaller, used less power, produced less heat, and lasted longer. These advantages compounded quickly. Fewer failures meant machines could run more dependably. Lower heat made systems easier to build and maintain. Smaller parts allowed more complex designs in less space. The change did not happen overnight, but its direction was clear. Computers no longer had to be dominated by glowing tubes and heavy power demands. The transistor also opened the path to miniaturization on a scale earlier engineers could barely imagine. Every modern chip is descended from this shift. The silent reliability we expect from electronics begins here. The transistor transformed the computer from a temperamental giant into something that could eventually shrink, spread, and enter ordinary life. Bell Labs transistor quietly began the end of vacuum tube computing. In 1947, researchers at Bell Labs demonstrated a tiny device that could control current in a new way. John Bardeen, Walter Brattain, and William Shockley were connected to the breakthrough, although the personal and professional story around it was complicated. The invention did not look dramatic to the public at first. It was a small laboratory component, not a room-filling machine. Yet its implications were enormous. Vacuum tubes had powered radios, telephone systems, and early computers, but they were bulky and fragile compared with what transistors promised. Bell Labs was an ideal birthplace because it worked on communication problems where reliability mattered deeply. A better switch could reshape not just computing, but the entire electronics industry. The transistor's quiet arrival is one of history's great reminders that revolutions often begin as technical demonstrations. A small change in how current is controlled eventually made possible portable radios, satellites, computers, and the digital world surrounding us. Integrated circuits placed many electronic parts onto one tiny chip. Even with transistors, building complex machines from separate components created problems. Each part needed connections, and every connection could fail. Integrated circuits solved this by forming multiple components together on a single piece of semiconductor material. Jack Kilby and Robert Noyce made key breakthroughs in this direction. Their work helped turn electronics from assembled collections of parts into manufactured patterns on chips. This was a profound shift. Once circuits could be made as tiny integrated structures, complexity could grow while physical size fell. Computers became faster and more reliable because signals traveled shorter distances and fewer hand-wired connections were needed. Integrated circuits also allowed mass production. The same design could be replicated again and again, driving costs down over time. This is one of the great engines of the digital age. The chip is not merely a small circuit board. It is a way of printing electronic logic into matter with astonishing precision. The microprocessor turned a computer's brain into a single chip. Before the microprocessor, a computer's central processing functions were usually spread across many boards and components. The microprocessor gathered the essential control and arithmetic circuits onto one integrated chip. This made computing dramatically more compact and easier to build into new products. The early chips were modest by modern standards, yet they changed the economics of design. A manufacturer could put programmable intelligence into calculators, instruments, controllers, and eventually personal computers. The processor became a component that could be purchased and designed around, rather than an entire custom system. That shift encouraged experimentation. Small teams and hobbyists could imagine building machines that would once have required institutional resources. The microprocessor also made software more important because the same chip could perform many tasks depending on its instructions. A tiny square of silicon became the heart of flexible devices. This was one of the decisive moments when computing began moving from special rooms into everyday objects. Intel's early microprocessors helped launch the personal computer age. Intel's first commercial microprocessor, the 4004, was created for calculator-related work, but it revealed a much larger possibility. Later chips, including the 8008 and 8080, gave designers more power for general computing projects. These processors became building blocks for early hobbyist and personal systems. Their importance was not only raw performance. They made it possible to design a computer around an available chip rather than inventing a processor from scratch. This lowered the barrier to entry for small companies and enthusiasts. Magazines, clubs, and kit makers began sharing designs and ambitions. People could imagine owning a computer, not just using one through a university or employer. Intel's chips helped change the identity of computing from centralized service to personal possession. The early microprocessors were limited, but they were liberating. They put the central logic of a computer within reach of builders who wanted to bring computation home. The Altair 8800 inspired hobbyists to build computers at home. When the Altair appeared in the mid-1970s, it looked nothing like the friendly home machines that followed. It was sold as a kit, with switches on the front and rows of lights for output. To use it at first, owners might enter instructions by flipping switches one by one. That sounds painfully primitive, but for hobbyists, it was thrilling. Here was a real microcomputer that an ordinary enthusiast could assemble and command. Its appearance in popular electronics helped ignite a movement. Computer clubs formed around the excitement of sharing parts, programs, fixes, and dreams. The Altair also attracted young software developers who saw that these new machines needed languages and tools. One of the earliest important products was a version of BASIC. The machine's deeper significance is cultural. It gave people the feeling that computing could leave the institution and enter the workshop. The personal computer revolution began not with polish, but with possibility. Early personal computers often arrived as kits, not finished products. Buying a computer once could mean receiving bags of parts, boards, manuals, and a challenge. The owner might need to solder components, mount hardware, test connections, and troubleshoot mistakes before the machine came to life. This made early personal computing a hobby of construction as much as use. People learned electronics because they had to. They read schematics, shared advice, and celebrated the first successful blink of a light or response from a terminal. The kit culture gave users an intimate understanding of their machines. A computer was not sealed and mysterious. It was something you assembled with your own hands. That experience shaped a generation of builders who saw technology as flexible and personal. It also created a community spirit. Clubs and newsletters became places where solutions spread. Finished consumer machines would later make computers easier for everyone, but the kit era gave the movement its first devoted believers and its do-it-yourself soul. Home computer owners sometimes typed entire programs from magazines. In the early home computing era, software could arrive as printed text. Magazines published programs in BASIC or machine code listings, and readers typed them carefully into their computers. A game, calculator, drawing tool, or educational program might fill pages of code. One mistyped character could stop it from working, so readers learned patience and close attention. Some magazines included checksums to help find errors, but the process could still become a long evening of detective work. Yet this was part of the excitement. Typing a program taught users how software was shaped. They could alter lines, change messages, adjust colors, or experiment with rules. Instead of downloading an invisible product, they participated in the making. This practice helped spread programming literacy among children and adults. It also made magazines central to computer culture. A printed page could become an adventure on a screen if the reader had enough curiosity to bring it alive. BASIC made programming approachable for curious beginners and young students. BASIC was created to make computing accessible to people who were not professional programmers or mathematicians. Its commands were comparatively readable, and many early versions allowed users to type a line, run it, and see the result quickly. This immediate feedback was powerful. A beginner could print a message, ask for input, draw simple shapes, or make a small game without mastering the deepest machinery underneath. In schools and homes, BASIC became a first language for countless learners. It encouraged exploration because mistakes were part of the process. You could change a number and watch the program behave differently. That sense of cause and effect made computers feel less intimidating. BASIC also matched the limited resources of early personal machines. It was small enough to fit, yet expressive enough to inspire. For many people, it was the doorway into programming. It turned the computer from a purchased object into something that could answer back to imagination. The Apple I was sold as a bare circuit board. It did not arrive as the polished personal computer many people imagine today. Buyers received a board with the essential electronics already assembled, but they still needed to provide a keyboard, a display, a power supply, and a case. That made it feel less like an appliance and more like an invitation. Steve Wozniak designed it with remarkable economy, reducing the number of chips needed and making it elegant for its time. Steve Jobs saw that such a board could become a product, not just a hobby project. Only a small number were made, yet the idea behind it mattered enormously. A computer could be sold to individuals who wanted to explore programming at home or in a small workshop. It did not need to belong only to a university or company. The board was plain, but the shift was profound. Personal computing was beginning to move from specialist circles toward ordinary rooms. The Apple II brought color graphics into many early homes. When this machine reached users in the late 1970s, it helped change what a home computer could feel like. It came in a molded case, used a keyboard, connected to a television or monitor, and offered color graphics that made the screen more inviting. That mattered because early computers could seem intimidating. Color made them feel playful and expressive. Wozniak's engineering allowed the machine to do impressive things with limited hardware, which gave developers room to create games, educational programs, and visual tools. The computer also had expansion slots, so users could add new capabilities. This openness helped it grow beyond its original form. Schools adopted it. Families discovered it. Small businesses found practical uses for it. The machine became one of the first widely successful personal computers, not because it was only powerful, but because it felt approachable. It helped make the computer seem like something that belonged in the home. The Commodore PET looked friendly while hiding serious computing power. Its name sounded charming, and its all-in-one design made it less intimidating than many kid machines. The keyboard, display, and cassette storage were built into a single unit, which made it feel complete from the moment it arrived. Yet inside that approachable shell was a capable microcomputer used in schools, offices, and homes. The PET could run BASIC, store programs on cassette tapes, and support practical applications. Its built-in monitor helped create a self-contained experience, which was important at a time when many machines required extra parts. The design made computing feel less like a workshop project and more like a dedicated tool. It also helped introduce many students to programming. The machine's personality was part of its success. It looked sturdy, almost like a small terminal from the future, but friendly enough to sit on a classroom desk. Behind that modest appearance was a serious step toward accessible computing. The TRS-80 sold through ordinary electronics stores across America. For many people, this was the first computer they could see, touch, and consider buying in a familiar retail setting. Radio Shack already had stores across the United States, which meant the machine did not feel hidden inside a specialist hobby world. A customer could walk in for electronic parts and encounter a working computer on display. That visibility mattered. It turned personal computing into something commercial and approachable. The TRS-80 came with a keyboard, used a monitor, and ran BASIC. It attracted hobbyists, students, small business owners, and curious families. Its graphics were limited and its design was simple, but availability gave it power. People could get support, accessories, and software through a known retailer. This helped build confidence in a new category of machine. The TRS-80's importance was not only technical, it helped place the idea of owning a computer into everyday shopping life, where curiosity could become purchase. The BBC Micro helped teach programming to a generation. In Britain, this machine became closely tied to education and public broadcasting. It was chosen for a national computer literacy effort that aimed to help ordinary people understand the new digital world. Schools used it widely, and television programs encouraged viewers to learn what computers could do. The BBC Micro was well built, expandable, and capable of impressive graphics and sound for its time. Students could type basic commands and see immediate results, which made programming feel active rather than abstract. It supported experiments, games, word processing, and connections to external devices. Its influence came from being more than a product. It became part of a public mission to prepare people for a future shaped by computing. Many programmers, engineers, and designers first learned on one. The machine gave a generation not just access to a computer, but a language for understanding it. It turned curiosity into hands-on skill. Early computer games turned simple pixels into unforgettable adventures. The screens were limited, the sounds were basic, and the memory was tiny. Yet those constraints sparked remarkable creativity. Designers learned to suggest worlds with a few symbols, blocks, lines, or flickering characters. A spaceship might be only a cluster of pixels, but players felt danger and motion. A maze might be built from simple shapes, yet it could become a place of tension and discovery. Because hardware offered so little, imagination had to do more. Players filled in the gaps. The experience became a partnership between code and mind. Early games also taught people that computers were not only for accounts, equations, or official work. They could entertain, challenge, and surprise. This changed how families and young people approached machines. A game could draw someone to the keyboard, then lead them toward programming. Simple pixels became doors. Through them, millions began to feel that computers could create experiences, not just results. Space War ran on a university computer before arcades existed. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, students and researchers used a powerful computer called the PDP-1 to create one of the earliest influential video games. The game placed two spaceships on a screen, each trying to outmaneuver the other while a star's gravity pulled at them. It was technically clever and socially magnetic. People gathered to watch, compete, and improve it. The game showed something startling about expensive research machines. They could be used for play, not merely calculation. That was a radical cultural moment. It also revealed the importance of interaction. The screen responded immediately, and players controlled motion in real time. This made computing feel alive in a new way. The game spread to other institutions with similar machines, becoming a shared legend among early computer communities. Long before coin-operated arcades made games a public business, a university laboratory had already discovered that computers could produce excitement through simulated worlds. Text adventures proved that computers could create worlds with words. In these games, there might be no graphics at all. The computer described a location, asked what you wanted to do, and responded to typed commands. A player explored by reading and imagining. That simplicity was also the magic. A line of text could become a cave, a locked door, a strange machine, or a dangerous choice. The parser, which interpreted commands, made the computer seem conversational even when its understanding was limited. Games such as Colossal Cave Adventure and Zork showed that storytelling and computation could merge. They turned the player into a participant, not just an observer. Each typed phrase felt like reaching into a hidden world. These adventures also encouraged careful thinking. Players mapped spaces, solved puzzles, tested verbs, and learned the rules of an invisible environment. The achievement was not visual spectacle. It was proof that software could build an entire experience from language, memory, and response. Early computer graphics began with simple lines on glowing screens. Before rich images and smooth animation, computer graphics often meant points and lines drawn by specialized displays. Engineers used vector screens to trace shapes directly with beams of light. The results could look spare, but they were exciting because the computer was creating visible form. Aircraft designers, researchers, and artists began to see screens as more than output devices for text or numbers. A line could represent a curve, a circuit, a flight path, or a moving object. This changed the emotional relationship between people and machines. Instead of waiting for printed results, users could watch ideas take shape visually. Early graphics were not just decorative. They helped people understand complex structures and interact with data in more intuitive ways. The screen became a workspace. That shift prepared the path for design software, visual simulations, and graphical interfaces. The first glowing lines were modest, yet they pointed toward a world where computers would become visual partners. Sketchpad showed that people could draw directly with a computer. Created by Ivan Sutherland in the early 1960s, this system was astonishingly ahead of its time. A user could draw on a screen with a light pen, creating lines, shapes, and diagrams that the computer could store and modify. Even more impressive, Sketchpad understood relationships. Lines could be constrained to remain parallel, connected, or equal in length. Change one part, and the system could adjust related parts. This introduced ideas central to computer-aided design. It also changed what interaction could mean. The user was not simply entering commands or waiting for printouts. They were manipulating visual objects directly. That made the computer feel less like a distant calculating engine and more like an intelligent drafting surface. Sketchpad influenced graphics, interface design, engineering software, and object-oriented thinking. Its deeper wonder lies in how modern it feels. Decades before ordinary people used drawing programs, someone had already shown the computer how to become a visual collaborator. Douglas Engelbart demonstrated the mouse before most people owned screens. In 1968, Engelbart presented a computer demonstration so advanced that later viewers called it the mother of all demos. Among its remarkable features was a small pointing device that allowed a user to move a cursor on screen. The mouse made interaction feel physical and immediate. Instead of typing every instruction, a person could point, select, and manipulate. At the time, most people had never imagined a personal screen-based relationship with a computer. Machines were still commonly associated with specialists and printed output. Engelbart was thinking differently. He wanted computers to augment human intellect, helping people work with information in more powerful ways. The mouse was only one piece of that vision, but it became the most famous. Its wooden prototype looked simple, almost humble. Yet it carried an idea that would transform everyday computing. The hand could become part of the conversation between human thought and digital information. Engelbart's great demo revealed email, Windows, and collaborative editing. The presentation showed not one invention, but a whole future arriving early. Engelbart and his team demonstrated linked text, screen windows, remote collaboration, file organization, and shared editing across connected computers. Viewers saw people working together through machines in ways that would not become common for many years. This was not a sales pitch for a finished consumer product. It was a research vision made visible. The achievement is astonishing because so many later features of digital life appeared together in one event. The demo suggested that computers could help groups think, write, organize, and communicate. It moved beyond calculation into knowledge work. That shift was profound. The computer became a tool for collaboration rather than a silent machine in the back room. Many technologies shown that they took decades to reach ordinary users, but the map had been drawn. Engelbart's team gave the world a glimpse of networked work before the world was ready to live inside it. Xerox PARC shaped the future with graphical interfaces and networking. At the Palo Alto Research Center in the 1970s, researchers explored ideas that would later define personal computing. The Alto computer used a graphical interface with windows, icons, a mouse, and a high-resolution display. It was connected through Ethernet, printed with laser technology and supported software that made documents look on screen more like they would on paper. This environment was extraordinary because it brought several future-defining ideas together. People could work visually, share resources, and interact with information in a more natural way. The Alto itself was not sold as a mass-market product, which makes the story bittersweet. Park created a vision that others would later commercialize more successfully. If its influence is undeniable, the center helped show that computing could be personal, visual, and networked. It changed the question from what a computer could calculate to how a person could live and work with one on a desk. The first computer mouse was made from wood. The earliest version looked nothing like the sleek devices that later became common. It had a wooden shell, small wheels underneath, and a button on top. Its purpose was practical rather than decorative. As it moved across a surface, the wheels measured motion in 2 directions, allowing a cursor to move on a screen. That simple physical mapping was brilliant. It gave the user a direct way to control digital position. The material makes the story memorable because wood feels so far from modern electronics. Yet this plain object helped shape one of the most familiar gestures in computing. Pointing became a way to command. Clicking became a way to choose. The mouse made screens easier to navigate and opened computing to people who did not want to memorize commands for every action. In that small wooden prototype, the digital future still had the warmth of a workshop object, built by hand to make machines more human. Ethernet began as a way for local computers to talk. At Xerox PARC, researchers needed a method for connecting computers within the same building or campus. Robert Metcalfe and colleagues developed Ethernet as a practical networking system that could let machines share information efficiently. The name drew inspiration from the old scientific idea of ether, although the technology was firmly electrical and digital. Early Ethernet used coaxial cable, and connected machines followed rules to transmit data without constantly colliding with one another. The achievement may sound ordinary now, because networks surround us. At the time, it helped redefine what a computer could be. A machine did not need to stand alone. It could exchange files, send messages, access printers, and become part of a local community of devices. This was a crucial step toward the connected office and eventually the networked home. Ethernet's power lay in making communication practical, repeatable, and scalable. It helped turn isolated computers into members of a conversation. ARPANET connected distant computers before the modern internet existed. In the late 1960s, researchers built a network that allowed computers at different institutions to communicate over long distances. The goal was not to create the web as we know it, but to share computing resources and study robust communication. ARPANET used packet switching, which broke messages into smaller units that could travel across the network and be reassembled. This approach was very different from traditional telephone circuits, where a dedicated connection was held open. Packet switching made digital communication flexible and resilient. The first connections were modest, linking a small number of research sites. Yet the implications were enormous. Computers could become part of a wider system that outlived any single machine. Researchers could log into remote systems, move files, and send messages. ARPANET became one of the ancestors of today's internet, not because it looked like modern online life, but because it proved that distant computers could share a common digital space. The first email message was sent between 2 nearby machines. In the early 1970s, Ray Tomlinson created a way to send a message from one computer to another across a network. The machines were close to each other physically, but the message traveled through the system rather than by a person carrying paper. He used the AT sign to separate the user's name from the host computer, a choice that became one of the most recognizable symbols in digital communication. The content of that first message was not preserved as a grand statement. It was likely just a test string. That makes the moment feel wonderfully ordinary. One of the most important communication habits in modern life began as a practical experiment. Email turned networks into social tools. It allowed people to exchange written messages without being in the same place or acting at the same time. From a small test between nearby machines grew a form of communication that reshaped work, friendship, and daily routine. Early passwords appeared once computers started serving many users. When computers were used by only a small, trusted group, identity could be managed informally. That changed when time-sharing and multi-user systems allowed many people to access the same machine. The computer needed to know who was asking for resources, which files they could see, and what actions they were allowed to take. Passwords became a practical answer. They were simple, memorable secrets that linked a person to an account. This created a new kind of digital boundary. Information inside a machine could be private, shared, protected, or misused. Early password systems were not always strong by modern standards, and some became targets for curious users who wanted more access than they had been given. Still, the concept was essential. It showed that computing was becoming social enough to require trust rules. The moment people began sharing machines, security became part of the story. A password was a small gate into a much larger world. Computer terminals separated the keyboard from the machine itself. A terminal could sit on a desk while the real computer stood in another room, or even another building. This changed the user's experience completely. Instead of approaching a large machine directly, a person could type commands through a connected device and receive responses on a screen or printer. The terminal had little computing power of its own. Its job was to provide access. That separation helped large computers serve many users at once. It also made computing feel more personal before personal computers were widespread. A student, clerk, or engineer could sit at a terminal and interact with a powerful system without seeing the cabinets behind it. Terminals spread through universities, companies, and libraries, creating new habits of digital work. They made the computer less of a single object and more of a service reached through a point of contact. In a quiet way, the terminal prepared people for the idea that computing could be accessed from anywhere. Teletypes let people communicate with computers using printed text. Before video terminals became common, many users interacted with computers through teleprinter machines. A teletype looked a little like a heavy typewriter connected to a distant brain. You typed commands on its keyboard, and the machine printed the computer's response onto paper. The conversation was slow by modern standards, but it was revolutionary because it gave users a direct textual link to a machine. Every exchange left a physical record, which could be useful for checking work or saving output. The clatter of the printer became part of the computing experience. Commands, errors, results, and prompts appeared line by line. This method also connected computing to earlier communication systems used for telegraphy and news transmission. The computer was not yet a glowing screen companion. It was a presence that answered in ink. Teletypes made interaction possible in an age when displays were expensive, and they helped establish the command line as a central way of thinking. Floppy disks made software easier to carry, copy, and share. A floppy disk was thin, light, and portable, yet it could hold programs and files in a form computers could read and rewrite. That was a major convenience compared with cards, paper tape, or cassette loading. Users could carry software in sleeves, mail it to others, trade it with friends, or keep backups in a drawer. Early disks were physically flexible, which gave them their name, though later versions became smaller and sturdier. They helped create a software culture around personal computers. A program could be sold in a package, passed around a classroom, or loaded at home in seconds compared with slower methods. Discs also made saving work feel natural. A document, game, or utility could live outside the machine and travel with its owner. This portability changed expectations. Computing was no longer only a session on a system. It became something you could collect, organize, and carry from place to place. Hard drives were once heavier than refrigerators and held very little. The first commercial hard disk storage systems were enormous by today's standards. They used stacks of large spinning platters inside bulky cabinets, and their capacity was tiny compared with even the simplest modern storage devices. The contrast is almost absurd. A machine that required serious floor space might hold only a few megabytes. Yet at the time, the value was extraordinary. Unlike tape, a hard drive could reach stored data more directly. This made it useful for business records, scientific data, and systems that needed faster access to information. The equipment was heavy, expensive, and carefully maintained. Technicians treated it as a serious industrial machine, not a disposable accessory. Its size reminds us how physical information storage once was. Data occupied motors, metal, air gaps, and spinning surfaces. Today, we casually carry vast libraries in a pocket. Early hard drives show how recently storage was a massive engineering challenge, and how astonishing the shrinkage has been. IBM's first hard drive stored data on spinning magnetic platters. The IBM 350 disk storage unit, introduced as part of the Rimac system in the 1950s, used a stack of magnetic disks that rotated inside a large cabinet. Read and write heads moved to reach different areas, allowing data to be accessed more flexibly than sequential tape. This was a major conceptual leap. Information could be stored in records and retrieved without winding through an entire reel. Businesses could imagine faster access to accounts, inventories, and transactions. The machine's capacity now seems tiny, but its method pointed directly toward the future. Spinning platters would dominate computer storage for decades, becoming smaller, cheaper, and vastly more capable. The early system was not elegant by modern physical standards. It was large, heavy, and mechanically complex. Yet it introduced a way of thinking about data that still feels familiar. Store it on a disk. Find it when needed. Let magnetism remember what the office cannot hold by hand. Early laptops were heavy machines with tiny screens and large ambitions. Portability came before comfort. Early portable computers could weigh many pounds, and some were closer to luggage than the slim devices we carry today. Their screens were small, often displaying only limited text. Batteries were weak or absent in some designs, which meant portability might simply mean the machine could be moved between outlets. Yet the ambition was thrilling. A computer no longer had to stay on a desk. It could travel with a journalist, engineer, salesperson, or researcher. That changed the meaning of personal computing. Work could move with the person. Files could be prepared away from the office. Demonstrations could happen on site. These machines forced designers to balance screen size, keyboard usability, storage, power, and weight. Every compromise was visible. Still, the dream was clear. People wanted computing that could follow them into the world. The first portables were awkward, but they carried a future that later became ordinary. The Osborne one made portable computing possible, but barely comfortable. Released in the early 1980s, this machine is often remembered as one of the first commercially successful portable computers. It folded into a luggable case with a handle, and it came bundled with useful software. That software package was a major part of its appeal, because buyers received tools for word processing, spreadsheets, and programming. The screen was famously small, only a few inches across, which made long sessions cramped. The machine also needed external power. Yet it offered something remarkable for its time. A complete computer system could be carried from one place to another. Business users could take their work on the road, even if the experience required patience and strength. Its design captured a transitional moment. The dream of mobility existed before the technology could make it graceful. The Osborne one was not sleek, but it was convincing. It proved that people wanted portable computing badly enough to carry a heavy box to get it. Silicon Valley grew from electronics workshops into a computing powerhouse. The region south of San Francisco became important because of a rare mixture of universities, defense contracts, semiconductor firms, venture capital, and ambitious engineers. It did not begin as a mythic center of software culture. It grew through electronics, radio work, microwave research, and chip manufacturing. Companies formed, employees left to start new companies, and knowledge moved through personal networks. Stanford University played a role by encouraging links between research and industry. The name Silicon Valley came from the silicon used in semiconductor devices, which made the region's identity inseparable from the chip. Over time, the area became a magnet for people who wanted to build new machines and new businesses. Its influence reached personal computers, software, networking, and eventually the internet economy. What makes the story fascinating is the chain reaction. One invention fed another. One company trained the founders of the next. A local electronics ecosystem became a global symbol of technological change. Computer clubs helped turn hobby machines into a cultural movement. In the 1970s, clubs gave early enthusiasts a place to share discoveries, frustrations, and hopes. Members brought circuit boards, code, schematics, rumors, and questions. Someone might demonstrate a new interface. Someone else might share a program or explain a hardware fix. These gatherings mattered because personal computing was still uncertain. There were few established rules, and many machines required patience to use. A club could transform isolation into community. The Homebrew Computer Club in California became especially famous because it gathered people who would influence the personal computer industry. But the broader movement was not only about future companies. It was about the excitement of ordinary individuals taking control of computing. Machines that might have seemed puzzling alone became understandable in a room full of fellow builders. The culture encouraged openness, experimentation, and tinkering. Computer clubs helped turn microcomputers from strange kits into objects of shared possibility, where a hobby could become a revolution. Early hackers were curious builders, not the criminals later imagined. The original culture around hacking was rooted in exploration, skill, and creative problem-solving. A hacker was someone who wanted to understand a system deeply enough to make it do something new, elegant, or unexpected. In university labs and computer clubs, the term could be a compliment. It suggested ingenuity and persistence. These people optimized code, built tools, improved systems, and sometimes played elaborate technical pranks. Their focus was not theft or harm, although later public usage shifted the word toward computer crime. The early meaning matters because it captures a key spirit of computing history. Machines were not fixed objects to be accepted passively. They were systems to investigate. If a limitation appeared, a hacker looked for a path around it. If a program was slow, they tried to make it faster. This mindset helped drive innovation. It treated computers as open puzzles, and it made curiosity one of the engines of the digital age. Software became valuable once computers spread beyond laboratories and governments. But first, hardware often received most of the attention. Machines were rare, expensive, and physically impressive. Programs could seem like supporting material, sometimes shared freely with the equipment or among users. As computers entered businesses, schools, and homes, that changed. People needed operating systems, languages, applications, games, tools, and specialized programs. The same hardware could become far more useful when paired with the right software. Companies began to sell programs as products in their own right. This shifted the economics of computing. Value no longer lived only in metal, chips, and cabinets. It lived in instructions, design, usability, and support. Software could be copied, licensed, updated, and distributed across many machines. That made it powerful and complicated. It also created new professions and new industries. The rise of software showed that the most important part of a computer might not be what you can touch. It might be the invisible logic that tells the machine what to become. Early computers changed history by making information move at machine speed. The deepest transformation was not simply faster arithmetic. It was the acceleration of organized knowledge. Records could be sorted in hours instead of months. Scientific models could be tested with new ambition. Messages could cross networks. Businesses could track operations with increasing detail. Governments could process populations, taxes, logistics, and planning at scales that paper systems struggled to handle. Once information began moving through machines, institutions changed their expectations. Waiting became less acceptable. Accuracy became more measurable. Decisions could be based on larger bodies of data. This did not make society perfect, and it raised new questions about power, privacy, and dependence. But it undeniably changed the tempo of modern life. Early computers were awkward, costly, and limited. Yet they introduced a new speed into history. Human beings had always stored information and passed it along. Computers made that information active. They let it be searched, transformed, copied, and sent with a momentum that reshaped the world. And so, we've come to the end of our journey through the early world of computers. We began in a time when a computer was not a machine at all, but a person with a pencil, a table, and a patient mind. We watched calculation move into brass gears, punched cards, glowing tubes, magnetic memory, and room-sized machines that seemed to hum with the future. We followed the story through code-breaking, moon landings, mainframes, home computers, early games, strange storage systems, and the first networks that allowed machines to speak across distance. What began as a way to count faster became something far larger. These early computers changed how people worked, how they explored space, how they organized knowledge, and how they imagined the future. Every phone, laptop, and hidden processor around us still carries a trace of those first ambitious machines. And now, as the story settles, you can let those thoughts soften. Imagine the old computer rooms growing still. The reels stop turning. The lights on the panels fade one by one. The paper tape rests quietly beside the machine. The great cabinets cool in the darkness, their work complete for the night. If you enjoyed this sleepy journey through history, you're welcome to like, subscribe, or leave a thought below. It helps other curious minds find their way here too. And if you happen to still be awake, there will be another video waiting on the screen, ready to carry you into a new story. But for now, there is nothing else you need to do. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your breathing slow. Let the day fall away, bit by bit, like numbers disappearing from an old glowing display. Sleep well and good night.